Okay, this is hopefully going to be very brief and an introduction to how to make quiz questions that are calculated. So these are going to be questions that have answers that are numeric. And you're able to write the questions in a way that it randomly generates different numbers, ideally for each student that takes the quiz. So you're asking the same question, but they have to do their own work, ideally. So you start by, you see I was on just the course page, you're going to go and add a quiz just like you normally would. When you get into the actual quiz and you're adding questions, the type of question that you're going to be adding is calculated. So we'll just call this test quiz. You can mess with all the different things down here when the quizzes are open. That's all stuff you may or may not already be familiar with. I will say that with the calculated questions, I do come down extra restrictions on attempts. Is that it? No. Activity completion. So the way I do it in my class now that it's randomly generated, basically new quiz each time, is it only marks as complete when you set certain conditions. And so I've got it set at 80%. If they get 80% or more of the questions right, it gets marked as complete. So with this new way where it's a new quiz each time, I let them just take it as many times as they want. And again, the goal is that they can hit that 80% mark. So we come in, adding a new question, and it's this one right here, calculated question type, and we'll call this one area. So the way it works is if you want to ask a question about area of a rectangle, you can say, what is the area of a rectangle with a base length of, and then when you get to where you want your variables to be, in braces, you can just name the variable whatever you want. I'll name it base, feet, and a height of feet, question mark. So when the students get this, every student's going to get the same question, but every rectangle is going to have a different base and a different height, is the idea. So you come down, the answer formula is going to be base times height. They should get a 100% if they get that right. There's tolerances that you can play around with if you want to deal with decimal answers and decimal questions. A question like this, base and height, should be pretty on the nose. You don't need to allow too much of a tolerance there. You can throw units in. You can say the units will be graded. You can say all these different things. I haven't played around with that one too much, but you can even have the units be part of the answer. Multiple tries, I would say no penalty for each one is how I do it again. So you go save changes. Now it's going to ask you about this. We're going to create a new shared data set. Go to the next page. So right here, I'm going to tell it I don't want any decimal points in my numbers and min-max values. We'll go 1 to 30. Why not? Down here for height, let's just do the same thing. No decimal places, 1 to 30. Now, this line right here, the number of wildcard values, I'm just going to add 100. So the way it does it is it creates specific sets of base, height, answer, more or less. And so I'm just going to create 100 sets. And so as the students go through, it'll randomly generate 100 different questions. So as long as you don't have more than 100 students, each one theoretically is going to get their own question. So you can come down and preview it. So we can see this one, we get 6 and 7. If we preview again, we're going to get 15 and 21. Preview again, 10 and 28. So that's 3 And again, it's not randomly generating each one individually. It's creating the sets. And so you do need to make sure on that add. There was a line there before saying you have to add at least one. I add 100 usually, just to cover my bases. So then we go to Save Changes. And there it is. And again, we can preview that. That's what it'll look like. And again, when you preview it, you can even check it out and say 13 times 12. Well, that's probably 100, right? Submit and finish. No. Okay. And so it'll do that, and it'll let them, when they take the quiz, it'll let them do that however many times you want. You can set all that up separately in the quizzes, but that is a calculated question. So upside is you can have it easily generate different questions for all your students, which helps with the integrity of the quiz. Downsides, it only works if the answer is a number. So if the answer is going to be an equation or something, your best bet is multiple choice in that case. And it is a bit more work up front. But the upside is, again, one question for everybody and everybody gets their own. So that is how I have been using the calculated questions.